This is Athletes as Educators with former pro basketball player, championship winning coach, and author Angela R. Lewis. Angie Lewis interviews current and former athletes who are passionate about sharing the lessons they've learned and the experiences that have shaped their lives. A resource for parents, a guide for student athletes, a source for current and former athletes, keys to transition off the court. Welcome to the Athletes as Educators podcast with Angela R. Lewis.
This segment is all about current and former athletes or business leaders in sports and the work that they are doing. On this show today, we have a recap with Khalia Collier. She's the owner and general manager of the St. Louis Surge, a professional women's basketball team here in St. Louis. I was fortunate to be able to coach the team in 2014 when we won a national championship, which was amazing. But you're going to hear Khalia talk about the evolution of women's basketball, the way the Surge is impacting St. Louis, and her vision for the organization in the future. And she makes it really clear that Surge is not some charity case, that she has worked her butt off to create a phenomenal business model and one that is sustainable and one that families can love. And there's a lot of young women in our community that look up to Khalia. And as her story goes out more on a national and global scale, Khalia is definitely a young woman on the rise, doing great things in the business world as well as here locally. So enjoy this conversation with Khalia. Remember, you can always reach out to me on Instagram and Twitter, Angie_R_Lewis. Instagram is the same thing, Angie_R_Lewis. And on Facebook, Angie R. Lewis. Enjoy. Leader and has done great things for the game of basketball and women and youth in St. Louis. Khalia, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Angie. Super excited.
Yes, I feel like we've been having these conversations over the years. Of course, I coached with the Surge in 2014. We won a national title together, and we've been having these conversations, but we've never recorded them. So now we finally get to record one of our conversations and share your experiences even broader.
Yeah, I think the timing of us knowing each other literally for nearly a decade now. Yeah, if not a little, it's been over a decade.
It has been.
Oh man, yeah, we have some time in the game.
For sure. I remember, we talk about back when I played ball at St. Louis University, and you were coming to camps, and how that was our first interaction, and so you never know how people are going to come back into your life.
No, absolutely not. Like that, talking about things coming back full circle and the people that make the athletes that make impressions in your life early. I mean, I was 11, 12 years old, and I remember, you coming up, signing my shirt, and that being a lasting memory for me. And I think it shows just how impactful sports can be at an early age.
And that's the whole reason that we're collaborating on this book with 14 other women who played college sports, because it's important that young athletes know the influence they have and the impact that they can have. And the sooner they can learn how to transition well, they can use that impact for good and to be able to help so many other people.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's just a strong collaboration altogether. I'm super excited to see what you come up with.
Oh, wait till you hear the stories of the other women. This is just one of the most exciting things that I've done in a really long time. Will you talk a little bit about your background in college and how you transitioned from college?
Yeah. Right out of high school, I was a Division I recruit. I was looking at colleges all over, and it was interesting for me because I kind of had a big head coming out of high school. I wanted to go to this big D1 school, and I ended up finding a small school right next door to Mizzou, Columbia College, that I felt like was going to be the perfect school for me. It was NAI Division I, extremely competitive. But little did I know, I didn't have the best experience there. It wasn't a strong coaching staff for me. So I ended up leaving after 2 years. And it was I learned some hard lessons in a short period of time. I grew up pretty fast. So having the opportunity to come back home to Missouri Baptist and be closer to my family was key to me. But I was super injury prone. I mean, I didn't have the college career I expected at all. And luckily for me, I played golf in high school. Not many people knew that. So to be able to go from a full ride basketball scholarship to a full ride golf scholarship was a huge opportunity for me. But I never stopped missing the game of basketball. It was a part of my blood, playing since I was 5. I knew that somehow I would always be around sports. I just didn't know at what capacity.
Will you talk a little bit about your transition after college? So you go to MOBAP, you're playing golf, you finish your degree. What did you major in, and then what did you do immediately when you were finished?
So what was interesting for me, my senior year of college, I actually worked in corporate. I worked for Plaza Motors at the time, and I was working about 40 to 50 hours a week. And so I was also prepping for the LSAT because after college, I was going to law school. And when I had the opportunity to transition after college, it was like, all right, I got a communications political science degree. And this opportunity came available, a part of corporate and automotive, to actually join their management team. And I was the youngest, the only female, and I felt like this was a perfect opportunity for me to join a Fortune 500 company and take on a strong leadership role. And that's exactly what I did. I just went for it. I figured, get some experience in my resume early. Law school could still be there. And so I did. I started working like 70 hours a week, and I was really, really good at what I did. Finance and sales is my background, but I really miss being around sports, and I could never shake that feeling.
Why did you start working for Plaza when you were a senior in college? How did that come about? How did you secure that job?
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't have your typical childhood. Like I've always worked, strangely enough, probably since the 5th grade through middle school. I worked at a flea market. I worked every weekend. I sold car products, and I go from car wash to car wash selling car products. So what was interesting for me is that, to have the opportunity to be able to make some really good money while I'm in school it was like, why wouldn't I? And golf wasn't as strenuous as basketball, so I had some flexibility in my schedule. But I think it was really getting to know people, building relationships early. I was a huge proponent of meeting as many people as I could, and just networking, and it kind of paid off for me at a really early age.
But how did you get the job at Plaza? So one of the things that the young women want to know is like the process, and how do you make decisions about where you're going to get a position?
I will 110% say this job came from, who you know. I knew someone who was working there. They were able to vouch for me. I had already worked really hard, and a big part of that is positioning yourself to be successful. It's not just, somebody, they pull you in. It's, hey, I've already been on top of my stuff, and by the way, I know somebody pulled me in. And that's exactly how I got the job. They knew I was looking for it. I was working for another company before. I was in marketing, and they were like, hey, you could probably be pretty good at this, and I'm a car bluff, so it made sense. I'm big on do what you're already naturally good at, and I was naturally good at it, so I went for it.
So you had identified your talents already, and then you knew people who were working in different companies and made the connection and said, this is what I'm looking for. And they were able to put their name on the line for you.
People actually underestimate their warm market all the time. I mean, you got a warm market that's always around you. It's just identifying what you want to do.
Talk about what a warm market is for our college students who may not know.
Your warm market is your immediate network. Your friends, your family, their friends, their family that are just 1 degree of separation from you. It's super key for you to just know who's in your circle, whether that's attorneys, whether it's doctors, accountants. And if you start to develop what you're interested in early, you get to know those people a little bit better. You ask them, can you volunteer? Can you job shadow? And you get exposed to as much as you can. And that's what I did at an early age. I mean, I was exposed to just about everything because I put myself in positions to be exposed to it. I wanted to know what I didn't want to do. More than I wanted to know, all right, I'm good at this, but let me see if I like this over here. And what better way to start than your own warm market of figuring out who can help you, volunteer, internships, or get a job.
That warm market is key. You're absolutely right. And what you said earlier, should not be understated is that you have to show up and you have to perform and execute, because what we know that we don't learn early on is that your success is contingent upon people being able to put their name on the line for you, because everyone needs a recommendation in some form. Everyone needs other people. Like, you don't go at this life thing alone.
Oh, absolutely. The whole self-made doesn't exist. No matter who you are, someone helped to help you get there. But it's really important when asking someone to put their name on the line for you that you're 110% ready for that opportunity as well. Because you can't do stuff like that prematurely. And unfortunately, if you vouch for the wrong person, it burns your credibility. So I think I've kind of seen that just growing up, to where you got to come ready. And so if I'm going to ask you to take that leap of faith on me, I want to give you every reason as why you should do it.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you were working at Plaza, but you had this love for the game that never ever subsided. How did you get connected with the Surge, which you ultimately owned? Will you talk about how this came to be?
Yeah, it was actually really crazy how the Surge came into existence for me. The Surge was already here in St. Louis. They were playing at Vashon High School. They played at Flo Valley for a minute. They were averaging like 50 to 60 people a game. And they started back in 2008. How I found out about the team originally was from one of my good friends at SLU. She was looking at trying out for the team. And that was I had heard a little bit about the Surge, but it was probably something that I would have never been interested in if she wouldn't have wanted to explore the opportunity to try out for the team. So I went with her just as a supportive friend to see what it was. We traveled out to East St. Louis, and I was like, this is interesting. And I stayed and just kind of got roped in. When you don't have too many opportunities outside of playing overseas, you kind of jump as an athlete as an opportunity to continue playing in your home city. And that's exactly what a lot of the women were doing who were playing for the Surge. And so I kind of got roped into being the team manager. And at the time, I was already working really crazy hours at work, but it gave me an opportunity to be around the game. And it literally went as fast as kind of a month transition for me, to where I went on as a supportive friend. Then after that, I became the team manager. And then they asked me to play in one game with the Surge. And I jumped in a couple of practices. And I still kid all the time. I say I still have some game. And if I wanted to, I could play. But I do know the truth deep down. So after I played a couple of games with the Surge, actually one game, and a light bulb went off for me, to where it's like, hey, I could really take this, grow it into something really unique in the St. Louis market. And so my goal was, at the time, is that I opted to the owner to take over at the end of the season. You know, I didn't think I was nearly ready, wasn't talking about doing it now. But little did I know, he opted it to me to take it over like the next week. And so I did. I don't even really think I thought about it in my head. I didn't start thinking about it until I realized what I'd done. And I was like, oh my God, about a basketball team. I should probably get a staff. And luckily for me, I've been very blessed to have some of the most supportive friends and family in my life that stepped up to help me grow it really early on. And that was really the first in the beginning of the Surge. Was I had really no idea what I was getting myself into. But what I did know is that I was going to do it to the best of my ability, and that I was going to work as hard as I possibly could to create something different in the St. Louis market. And 5 years later, we are still growing and building today.
Talk about the progression of the Surge over the course of the 5 years, because it has been a process. Like, people are going to look at the Surge now and talk about what it is, and not know the sacrifice that you've made for it to get here, personally and professionally.
It's interesting because I still think about that now. I don't think people will probably ever understand the sacrifices, the hard work, the sleepless nights that's gone into building the team. But some of that is not for them to know either. So the progression has been, it's been dog years for me. Like, the past 5 years have been actual dog years. I've had so many hard lessons, so many life lessons. I've grown up in a very short period of time, becoming the businesswoman that I am today. of being able to have those experiences, the good with the bad, to really mold me into knowing my true vision of what I wanted the program to look like. And I've had a lot of people help me along the way. They've really helped me perfect, what the surge is, not only as it is now, but what it's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. First year, again, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. First year, people in the market are just surprised to see that you're around.
Right.
Women's basketball has been untapped in St. Louis. People already have some negative connotations and some stereotypes that come along with it. So by the second year, for me, people were just surprised to see that we came back in 2013. In 2012, I mean, I've gone through a lot of players of really figuring out the direction we wanted to head, as well as coaches, as well as brand. I mean, we rebranded in 2013. We restructured the program to have the right product, and that's what 2013 was. We were headed in that direction. 2014, I mean, you got to be a part of the magic of year 3 of credibility. That's when I felt like year 3, I really understood what we were building for the long haul, the caliber of people that we wanted a part of our program, and why the surge was so important for a community aspect, because we were putting not just great basketball players on the court, but we were putting great people together. And that's when the philosophy of bigger than basketball really started to grow, of like, I knew that it was always going to be something bigger than the game. But now to see that the brand is what's so important to me, is like, when you see Surge basketball, you're going to get the best talent and the greatest people that we can assemble possible. And then that's what makes people excited to watch. And that's what we shifted in 2015. I mean, we fell short in the national championship. But I will forever say championships are the bonus. They're the cherry on top for us. We don't exist to win. We exist to build a community product. And then by the way, we win. That's kind of how it goes. And this year it's the 5th anniversary. I mean, everyone knows in business, to make it in 5 years as a startup, that's a milestone within itself. And I'm proud to say that we're a women's franchise. We're not a nonprofit. We're not a cause. We are a franchise that's building, that's growing, and we've been able to get the endorsements of the St. Louis Blues. We have the Cardinals now supporting us. We're at a whole new level.
Yeah. Khalia, I have so much respect and admiration for the work that you've done. I know there were nights where you slept at the office, where you were eating egg sandwiches. I remember one time you told me you had $50. No, I'm serious. Like, I think this is important though. You had a $50 per month food budget. I was like, how do you make it on $50? Like, it's what I have to do. So let's take a couple steps back to how and when you made the decision to leave Plaza and go all Surge.
When I made the decision to leave Plaza, it was a very calculated move for me. I had been thinking about it for a while. I needed to position myself to where I had to have some savings, so I planned for it. And as much as it was a leap of faith, I'm a conservative risk taker, to where you plan and then you take the risk, to where, I wanted to know a little bit what I was going to get myself into financially. And so when I actually made the decision to leave my full-time position, I heard nothing but, that's a horrible idea. You're making the worst mistake of your life. At what age are you going to be making this money doing this? But I didn't want to do Surge for money. I felt like, when you do what you love, money will come. And I felt like this was the right opportunity for me to go for it. So, in 2012, and I will never forget the date because it was Valentine's Day, February 14th. I left my job and I went full-time Surge, and it was one of the best decisions I could have ever made, because to take the time, the heart, the dedication, and to pour it all in, failure was not an option for me. Like that, I can honestly tell you, it just wasn't an option. Like, the worst case scenario for me was I was going to get another job.
Yeah.
If that was my worst case, I was going to be okay. I had some cushion in the bank. I had some ride or die family who was going to let me sleep on their couch. And I drove a really nice car right out of college. And I figured, if I'm sleeping in the back of my Lexus, I could have worse problems. So I'll be all right.
Exactly.
Your point though about a calculated decision is huge, because there's this mantra that you just take a leap of faith and just go out there and do it. And what people sometimes fail to recognize is most businesses don't start becoming profitable until a few years down the line. And the fact that you made sure it's easier to be able to go for it when you can eat and you have some cushion than to be in desperation mode trying to make your dreams come true.
Oh, absolutely. People have this thing about entrepreneurship. If you're starting a business to become a millionaire, you have the wrong motive.
Yep.
You should start a business to solve a problem, to see a need in the community, and then money will come along with it. But for me, I mean, it's sacrifices. You come last. And I think it's a combination of like when people make the decision to have kids, or when you have kids and it's not even, you don't even see it coming. You have to know that like selfishness is not an option. At that point, your job is to provide for your team. And I took that truly, really personal of like, all right, you know what? I will be the last one until we get this thing growing and building. And so, yeah, to look back on it and to realize that I lived on $50 a month for food, and I had strategic lunch meetings because sometimes that would be my only meal of the day. I think when I finally decide to write a book, people will probably be really surprised to see that I was able to keep a smile on my face during some real, real dark moments.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a time that it was hard, because when you're building something, like, you have to trust people with your vision. Like, you have to talk about what you're trying to accomplish to people, because you know that things happen through people, but everyone didn't cherish that vision or didn't see what you saw. How did you deal with disappointments of people who you trusted?
You have to understand, not everyone's going to share your vision. Not everyone's going to be ride or die for you. Not everyone's going to see what you see miles and miles and miles ahead of you. And that took a lot of lessons for me. You realize your circles grow smaller. You trust a little bit less, and the ones that you know from your gut are the right type of people that need to be in your life. You keep those people and you discard the others that just don't have your best interest at heart or just aren't truly supportive. As an entrepreneur, you take on so many risks. You take on so much weight on your shoulders. To add anything else to that, you will just send yourself into a meltdown. And so I had to have some lonely just me time to also figure out what I wanted to accomplish, and the type of people I wanted in my life was really important for me. But to know that those sacrifices, you have an end goal. That's what's important. So the people who doubt you, you got to use it as fuel. Because if you feed into it, you just don't have time to do that. You got too many other things going on. So someone else's issues, fears, or reluctance to help, it has to stay theirs. They can't become yours, because the only direction you're moving is forward.
Khalia, will you talk a little bit about the importance of building a culture and the type of culture? Everyone, for me growing up being a part of a team, and for you growing up being a part of a team, I crave and yearn teams in my life, right? Because I know that there's something magical that happens when you're connected with people who share a goal and you're working towards that. What are some things that you do as a leader to create a culture that's conducive to your goals?
I'm really big on culture. I'm big on cultural fits with our players. I'm big on cultural fits with our staff. And a part of that is just being you. I have this thing: if I don't like you, I don't want to work with you. Um, and what I mean by that is, if I don't naturally just get a good feeling for you, I don't want to be in the office with you, depending on you, and I don't want you on a part of our program. If you're not just a good person. If we don't share the same values, of just the golden rule of treat others the way you want to be treated, if I feel like that's not something that you represent, or you're not someone I would trust to be around my family, you're not going to work for us, period. I'm really cut and dry on that. But also, I've had the opportunity to sit down with so many leaders. I mean, from millionaires to billionaires. I've been able to sit in executive staffs and board meetings. I've had a lot of opportunities. And I wanted to create something to where people actually have fun. We're going to work really, really hard, but you can be chill too, to where it's not always, you're always on to a point to where you got to be dressed to the nines. You know what? We're an athletic team. I like the fact that we can wear sweats in the office, but we know when we need to dress up in slacks and a pencil skirt, we look the part. But it's being able to kind of do both. And that's a part of the culture that I think it builds, to where you work hard, you play hard, but you know that you got to work harder to play harder.
Right.
And as long as you don't get those two switched around, you're in good hands.
Khalia, when we first started talking, you were telling me that there are some interns who are in the office. And we know that there are a number of young women who are in college who have just graduated or who will be graduating soon. What are some keys that they need to know to be able to be successful in organizations these days? So what are some things that are tangible skills that they need to have?
I think tangible skills that a lot of just young college students coming out, it's important for them to understand persistence and that you're going to hear no, and how to handle that, how to navigate it, how to reposition yourself. Those are just key things that I feel like aren't taught in school. You can't teach someone that they're going to struggle. You can't teach someone that you're going to experience failure, but it's how you rebound for it. It's how you handle it. It's how you learn from it. That's what makes you a strong person. And I think what's cool about this is the first time to have a staff and we're seeing just the next generation of women that are evolving. I think it's kind of cool. Like I kind of brag on it, the fact that we have an all-female internship. But what's doubly cool is that they're working and their executive team are women. I know when I came out, all of my managers, my GMs, my president, my CEO were all older white men. Yep. And so to see that we're leading a franchise and we're 30 and under, we're a group of powerful, determined, young, tenacious women. I feel like that says something, to where anything is possible. If you want to own your own team, if you want to be an attorney, we've heard countless times over and over, we can do anything that we put our minds to. And it's true. If you let someone else stifle your dreams, shame on you, you got to go for it. And so to be able to put that in our staff, from a culture standpoint of you're going to go for the best opportunity and we're going to prepare you for it. But we're not just going to prepare you from a textbook type of way. We're going to prepare you from, all right, you're going to roll with the punches. You're going to learn what initiative is. You're going to learn how to adapt, because that's what life is. That's what sports is. You get thrown into a 3-2, but you thought they were in a man. Guess what you do? You don't fold, you adapt. And I think that's what it's really cool of just seeing, we recruit athletes. And I don't really care what type of athlete you are. I'm not biased to just basketball players. Is you just had to have some type of competitive nature in you to know that like quitting is just not an option. And I think that's one of the biggest things, for young girls to know and young women to understand is like, what is your alternative? And when you think about your alternative and then you know that it's not an alternative, then you're driving forward. And it's literally that simple. And so I don't know, I get really, really geeked about like the smallest things. I'm really one of those people that believe in motivational quotes, of you have to keep yourself motivated and then you have to keep others that motivate you too. And it can't just be you picking up everybody else. If you don't have someone that's feeding into you too, it's going to be a long, long journey.
Having other people around to help you when things get tough is essential, right? I talked to some other people about not feeling ready. There are all these women who are athletes who are doing these extraordinary things. And we've all taken positions when we know for a fact, like we didn't know what we were doing. But it took those people around us to help us. What's some of the best advice that you've received from your mentors?
That's exactly what a team is, though. Like, if you're having a rough day and you don't have someone able to pick you up, like that's why you're there. That's why you have that unit of camaraderie. And I think, for me, I have so many different mentors from, all different areas too. And I think that's, people like to just stick with, all right, I want to be in sports, so I'm only going to know people in sports. In order for you to be a well-rounded individual, you want to seek out, people from all different industries, all different levels of leadership. And so I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, from my female mentors, is that they put in the work. I don't know one of them that haven't worked incredibly hard, that maintain the level of just admiration, consistency, and that's what they've shared in me of like, you gotta be consistent. You can't just expect someone to write you $100,000 check the day they meet you. That's not how relationships are built. And to see that it happens over time, I think that's the thing that when I heard it early, you hear things are going to take time, but you don't really know what that means, right? It's like, you have no idea what that means. But patience is just so key. A lot of people quit their businesses and they quit things before they even let them blossom. I don't want to start 10 businesses, or go down. You got to give things a chance to work, even in the rough patches. When the sun's not shining and it's super rainy, you got to know that it's going to pass, and that you got to stick with your goal. And that's what they've shared with me more than anything, is like, if you're going to do this, you got to stick with it. And then if it comes a point in time to where you pivot, then you strategically pivot and you weigh all of your options before you do so.
How have you stayed the course? I mean, I'm sure people have come to you and have offered you other opportunities. Like, I know that people have said, hey, how about we would love for you to do this? When you've been enticed for other opportunities, why have you decided to continue going on? Because people are always looking to recruit talent. The same way you recruit talent, people in every industry are looking to recruit talent. How do you make that decision?
You know what? Staying the course is hard. I've been very fortunate. I wanted something that was going to sustain me outside of Surge. For people that knew that when I left my corporate position, I was making great money out of college. I didn't decide to own a women's basketball team because I was going to be a millionaire the next day. And so I did something that was strategic for me. I sought out a role that I knew that would give me flexibility. So that's what I do when I'm not with Surge. I lead the Institute for Private Business at St. Louis University, and it's a great strategic position with me. I work with the top family and privately owned businesses, and not only am I helping with their business growth, it's helping me with mine. But staying the course is hard. I mean, when you're tempted with other six-figure positions, I've had the opportunity to go work with other sports franchises. But when I think back, I'm able to create my own. And it's not someone else's vision, it's my vision, and it's what I want. We're starting with a blank canvas. Like, if we want to do something random at halftime, we have no one to tell us no. If we want to do something crazy over here like that, and I think that's what keeps me here, and building, because I know what we're creating is unique, and I know what we're creating is going to set the standard and really create the evolution of the next wave of women's sports. And I believe that, like, down to my core. So right now there's not another six-figure job that can pop up. Those jobs will be there. And if I decide to take a shift or I decide to do something else, I feel like Surge is kind of my springboard for what's next, but it's something I want to keep growing and really take this model and build it across the country. So, just last year I was looking at other options that were coming up and I was getting antsy. 5 years has gone by fast. I'm 28 now. And I'm like, all right, do I want to take this corporate job? Do I want to hear it? But I have a lot of fun doing what I do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of long hours, but I'd rather be working 16-hour days for myself than for someone else.
That right there is something that I think people coming up have that same mentality, that they want to be entrepreneurs, that they want to do something for themselves. But it's important to remember that it has to be strategic, and that strategy makes all the difference in the world.
I'm all about entrepreneurship until people don't understand that, like, you don't get paid vacation days. Mm-hmm. You do not have sick days. Yep. Like, that is real. When you take time off from work, you're taking time off from your own growth. And that's hard for a lot of people to swallow. So I think entrepreneurship sounds sexy until you realize, oh, you don't have benefits? No, there aren't benefits. So you got to figure out how to make it work.
The last thing that I want to know from you is, will you spoke about it briefly, but will you elaborate on the big vision for Surge and the Surge model?
I'm still wrapping my mind around what, the surges continuously evolve year to year. But what I envision the surge becoming within the next 5 to 10 years is I don't think probably half the people will understand we haven't even reached the tip of our potential. The model that we're creating is unique within its own right, because we're going to have, by going in the next year and the year after that, we're recruiting a high IQ level of not just basketball IQ, but academic IQ to be able to really set women up for success outside of sports. That's what I'm really passionate about. Until we're at a level to where we're signing multi-million-dollar contracts, right out of college, we're not there yet. And I'm not saying we're not going to get there. I hope that we get there within the next 5 to 10 years, to where you're seeing an exponential increase in female salaries in women's sports. But until then, we're going to perfect our model to be able to help players be able to succeed once they're done playing. And so to be able to take that and grow it across the country. And then what's next? I mean, you know me, Angie. I have an agency that I've been waiting to launch. I got a consulting firm that I'm waiting to launch. And now, I mean, between NFL, MLB, we have so many different tie-ins to where we're going to show that our model not only works in women's sports, that it's transferable in men's sports. And that's a lot of the times people don't think those two cross paths, and they very much so do. You don't have to sacrifice the person for the athlete just because of money. And we're going to show that you can do that and you can still win. And I think that's what's going to be cool, when people are like, oh, wow, that's right. We're recruiting the best of the best, and we're blowing teams out the water.
That you can't beat that. No, you're absolutely right. You can't beat that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one thing. It's the 20th anniversary of the WNBA. And we know that there are limited opportunities for women to play ball in the U.S. And there are so many women that want to play. Will you talk a little bit about the salaries of women's athletes, which you mentioned some, but talk a little bit more in depth about that, and how the surge is providing opportunities, not in competition with the WNBA, but an alternative for women who want to play.
Angie, I'm glad you brought that up. We are not competition to the WNBA. We're simply a different model. And it's still a lot of education that goes into women's sports. People see, professional female athlete, and your mind wants to tell you that they make multi-million-dollar contracts. But that's just not the reality. And seeing that the average WNBA salary is still, pushing not even 60 grand yet, and you're still seeing the NBA average salary at $3 million. That's a hell of a gap. And that's not going to change overnight. And for a lot of women, a lot of people make it seem like overseas is just the end and the be all. But as a female athlete, when you're at 1 to 2 to 3 Americans on each team, you're 16, 17 hours away from home. Maybe that you don't want to play overseas. And I don't think people factor that in of like, no. So we're that alternative to where maybe you don't want to be across the world from your family, and you want them to be able to be your support system at home. So we provide that alternative. Maybe you want to play in front of your family and friends. And so that other alternative is so key. And a lot of female athletes always feel like, you know what, I got to keep playing, pursuing my passion and playing ball, or you know what, I got to stop playing ball and I got to get a job. There's no in between. And so for us to create that in between is what I'm really, really passionate about, because there's such a big disconnect between men and women's sports that people just still don't realize. And I'm excited for the 20th anniversary of the WNBA because it is only going to grow. Women's sports is only continuing to become more athletic, more entertaining, and it's growing at another level because different generations are taking over. And that's what I'm excited about is when you think about what's next in our future, it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun to watch. I think the WNBA has a huge opportunity to gain more momentum for the next 20 years. And with new leadership coming into the WNBA, I'm really, really hopeful that she's going to be able to lead them to exponential growth and them just build a powerhouse team that's been, much needed to be able to take the WNBA to a whole new level.
Agree 110%. And I think that it's important that people recognize your point about overseas is it's not glitz and glamour. It's not all like love and basketball. Everyone's not Monica, it is, there are challenges, and to be able to create that alternative is essential. And hopefully there are other people who will recognize this model and be able to replicate and duplicate what's being done here, because it's truly special. Like, there's nothing else in St. Louis like the Surge, and arguably across the country there isn't anything else.
Well, I can actually confidently say there's not another team structured like us across the country. We've done the research to show it, and that is exactly what we're doing. I mean, we can't be on an island by ourselves. I'm hoping that we are setting that standard, that bar of excellence, and that we do see teams that start. I mean, within the WBCBL, you're seeing it become more competitive. It's getting on more radars of not only just female athletes, but NCAA. You're seeing pro teams acknowledging it as a separate professional development league. And I want us to continue pioneering, trailblazing, and shattering glass ceilings that people didn't think you could. And that puts us in a great spot to where I smile, because it's like, we only get better.
Yep.
Like that's it, that we only get better. So when you think about that from the next wave of generation that's coming in, that's hungry, that has a fire under them, that's excited to just make some waves, we only get better. And I think that that's cool just with women. I'm always raw female empowerment, that we can do everything. So, and we're watching it happen now. So
Watching it happen.
We're watching it happen and making it happen. And I think that's pretty cool for anyone, that's a part of it, that's seeing it, that's just excited about it. And what's cool is it doesn't just start with women. You know, we're seeing a lot of men that's supporting the movement. You're seeing a lot of dads with daughters that, you know, want the same opportunities that they've had. And that's steady growing. I always think that's special. I think, you know, we pay so much attention to just the women, but the guys have to be supporting the movement with us in order for it to work.
Absolutely. Khalia, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I mean, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited about what's going to happen in the future. So thankful to have been a part of Surge. Surge is always in my soul. If people want to know more about the Surge, want to know more about you, want to learn about your journey, how can they reach you?
Well, before I share that, Angie, I love you. I love what you're doing. You will forever be a part of the Surge. You helped us bring in our first national championship. So, you know what, you'll always have some connection, and I'll always find a way to rope you back in. But for people that want to know more about the Surge, visit us at stlsurgebasketball.com. We're working incredibly hard to keep our website engaging for our fans and to share unique perspectives of our players. So definitely stay in touch with us at stlsurgebasketball.com.
What about social media?
All of our social media handles STL Surge on Instagram, Twitter, and then St. Louis Surge Women's Basketball on Facebook. And then hopefully we should be just growing, because we're getting a lot of traction right now. So it's pretty cool to watch.
It is, and we only get better. Awesome. Thanks.
And we only get better. So thank you, Angie. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to see the next female leader you have for your next interview.
Oh, wait till I share this roster with you. You're going to be blown away. Totally blown away. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you, Angie. Talk to you soon.